Hello, welcome back. Right, a few months ago I did a video where I sort of highlighted some of the various devices that I use to help me load games into all the machines I own that helped me alleviate space problems because, as I've mentioned before, you know, massive collections of cassettes and everything like that. I just don't have the facilities to be able to store them, so I had to look around for other options. I used to, and still do, load Spectrum games through MP3, but I have a number of devices for the other machines that I sort of highlighted at the time, but never really demonstrated. So that's the purpose of this video, is to just go through each particular item that I use for each particular machine and show you what they're like. Now, I know there are dozens and dozens of examples of other devices other than the ones I'm going to show you. These are just the ones that I have and use for now, and they do what I need them to do. So it's just if you're interested, really. There are lots and lots of great devices, like I said, for all of them, but it's just to give you a sort of overview if you're new to collecting sort of retro computers and machines, etc., to you know, ways that you can get the best out of them. It's always best. I always did enjoy sort of like playing games from tape, etc., but like I've said, it's just not viable to build up massive. Stop it! Bloody cat can't help making an appearance, can he? That's another thing. I was trying to make this video about 15-20 minutes ago as I recorded this intro, because his food tray and everything is usually up in my daughter's bedroom. That's being sort of like moved around, decorated, etc. at the moment. So his food dishes and stuff down here, and I completely... What do you want? You didn't just tread all over my MSX, did you? I hope not. What was I saying? Yeah, his food trays and stuff are down here, and I forgot, and there was Go-Cat all over the place as I kicked it with my size 10s. He's still a pain in the backside, as you can see. He shows no interest in the desk until I try to sort of do a video. But anyway, yeah, let's just get on with it. MSX is the new boy. This is the one I've been playing with most recently. So we'll start with that first, and then whatever machine I sort of decide to try next. Okay, see you in a sec. Hello, right, welcome back. Okay, like I said, the MSX is the new boy in town. It's the one that's out on the desk at the moment. I've only played with this very, very briefly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this app, MSX2 Cassette, or MSX2 Cass, that I got from the Android store. I'm using the lead, the cassette leads that came from Retro Computer Shack yesterday. As ever, you know, this has helped me immensely. I didn't have any cassette leads, so I could only sort of play the cartridge games that came with it. Now, as you can see, once you've selected the file you want to use, it gives you the instructions that you've got to type in. So let's go ahead and do that. So it wants B load, speech marks, Cass, and I press return, and then if I press play on this, I've selected this one because it's just a minute, you can see, but yeah, this is I've not had any problems with this. And then I press enter. It should at some point tell me that it's found the game, and it will start loading it. There we go, found Bomber. Now Spectrum fans, you're going to recognise this game as Eric and the Floaters, a great game by Hudson Soft. It's only a minute long, the loading. One thing, now correct me if I'm wrong, because I am a novice on the MSX, is that they don't seem to have loading screens. They just seem to sort of stay like this. You know, that's a bit boring. But again, you know, I may well be wrong. There may be loading screens, etc. But I used to like on the other machines, like seeing the loading screens, some of which had, you know, fantastic examples. Now this game is just about ready to go. And you can see, there we go, and you can see what I mean in, you know, that it saves you storage space, etc. Let's just try and turn this up, because I can't remember what volume, if anything, I've got the thing on. Right, it's telling me I've got to use the keys and the arrow keys and space. This is going to be fun doing it one-handed. Let's have a quick go of Eric and the Floaters. No, Bomberman. There we go. Let's lay a bomb, get out of the way. Ah! Oops a daisy. Now, like I said, I've always quite enjoyed this in its Spectrum incarnations. Oh. There we go. Just a quick demonstration of MSX to CAS for the MSX. Whoa. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, okay, let's move on to the next machine. But yeah, that's MSX to CAS. It's a free app. And like I said, it's available from the Android store. I don't know if it's on iPhone as well, but I would presume so. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so next up we have the Commodore 64 with these couple of devices that I bought from the Future Was 8-bit, which have helped massively with my sort of Commodore 64 experience. First up, I've got the SD to IEC device here with an SD card in there. Now what that does is it mimics the Commodore disk drive. I can't remember what the number was of it, but apparently that disk drive itself was notoriously slow. So as I understand it, whatever time it took a game to load from disk in real life on a real disk drive, it will take exactly the same from that. To counter that, I bought this thing from them as well, the Epix Fast Load Reloaded cartridge, and it really speeds things up. So what I'm going to do is just quickly power up the Commodore. I'm going to sit down first is what I'm going to do, and then just sort of turn the C64 on. So there you go. And the way we access this once it's in, you can see it's showing the fast load cartridge is ready there, is we go to the keyboard and we press the Commodore key and run stop, and that brings up the memory there, and we scroll down so you can use the memory card not just for Commodore stuff, other machines as well. And you can see that the devices are compatible with the +4 and C16, the Commodore 128, etc. But we clearly want to go to C64. And what shall we have a look at? Let's see what's in there. Bubble. Shall we have a look at Bubble? Yeah, why not? And it's just a case of selecting which one you want. And that should eventually kick in and take just a few minutes, he says. He hopes. Talk amongst yourselves while this one's going on. Here we go. Press fire for Bubble. Well, I'll press space because I haven't actually got a joystick in. Oh, that's a bit loud. Commodore 64 version of Bubble is absolutely brilliant. There we go. What did that take? 30 seconds to a minute, if that. So that's the SD to IEC and the Epix Fast Load Reloaded cartridge for the Commodore 64. Right, let's move on. Hello, welcome back. Right, Amstrad CPC464's turn now, and we have the USB to DDI 3 device that Christian Van Tilburg, Realgenericdemon on YouTube. If you don't subscribe to him, you should. He's got a fantastic channel, a link in the description box below. He put me onto this device when I first got this last year. It's the USB to DDI 3 from Zaxon that you can get, I think you can still get from sellmyretro.com. And it's a disk drive emulator, loads disk files into your 464. And as you can see, it's quite a sort of like nice naked bit of kit. I really like the way that looks. So once you've loaded your files in, you know, there's menu systems, etc. There's actually quite a few things you can do with this. I only just use it to scroll through left and right and just pick the file that I want from the files that I've sort of downloaded, and let's just go from there. But apparently you can create directories and stuff, etc. Novabug did a far more in-depth video about that side of things, that if you want to find out exactly what this machine then it can do, then go and check that video out, which I will link below. But you've got a sort of menu system here, illuminated menu system. Shows I've got 477 files on that USB stick. And you've got a reset button just there. I don't know if you can see that, just on the side there. So you don't have to keep turning the Amstrad on and off. These two buttons here, scroll you left and right through the menu. That one, oh, which one? That one, where's my finger? That one just there, that sort of ejects whatever disk you have selected in the slot at the time. And these two sort of switches dictate what sort of mode the machine operates in, or tells the Amstrad to operate in. Now, I've never fannied around with either of those. I just leave it as it is. And the way that you know the machine is sort of attached and working is you get this sort of extra Parados line on the sort of boot screen logo of the Amstrad. Now, as you can see, I've got Way of the Exploding Fist for the Amstrad on there. So in order to bring that file up, all I do is type in the cat command, and it will tell me what's on the disk file. So then I just want to type run, speech marks, fist, and return, and off we go. And there we go. That's almost instantaneous that the sort of loading screens come up there. It varies between sort of game to game as to how long exactly the file takes to load, but most of them are pretty quick. I don't think I've encountered any that have been sort of like massively long, but here we go, we're already into the game. Now, I've not got a joystick plugged in, and I wouldn't be able to play one-handed anyway, but that's just to give you an overview of what you can do with this. Now, the reason I've not gone for the sort of like loading games from tape, the sort of MP3 sort of route with the Amstrad, is that I believe that the tape deck is actually motor driven, like the Commodore 64's one, which means the machine tells the tape recorder when it's got to stop, when it's got to pause, when it's got to start again, which the MP3 players apparently sort of struggle with, and they just sort of keep going, etc. So this is a far better solution for me. I don't know how sort of accurate I've been in my description of that there, but anyway, that's the that particular machine for the Amstrad. So let's have a move on and see what the BBC's got to offer. Okay, now let's see what's on offer for the BBC Micro. Just quickly, if ever a machine looked absolutely fantastic on your desk, it's this thing. It's in brilliant condition. I love having this in my collection. I put an awful lot of time into this machine games wise, and I've got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Now, storage solutions, media solutions for this, it's fitted with what's called a turbo MMC device, which is an SD card reader and an extra memory chip that has to be installed. I will pop a link down below to where you can get them from, but this one was already installed when I was sent this last year by Mark from Mark Fixes Stuff, who sent me basically all of these computers, I think, apart from some of my Spectrums. Well, the Plus 3 he sent me. But yeah, right, so I'm just going to lift this up gently and have a look. This is going to be quite tricky to show you because the BBC is quite heavy and I can only use one hand. Now there you see the Turbo MMC SD card reader there. It's attached to the user port. So if I pop that back down as gently as I can, I've seen them sort of like mounted on the top, etc., or sort of like loose to the side, and I think some people even have them inside. I'm not 100% sure on that, but look at the redness of those function keys. Freaking brilliant. Right, so let's turn it on. Okay, so there we can see that the Turbo MMC is installed there because it tells us it is. Right, so in order to access that, I've got to do the command *exec boot, and it straight away boots us into this menu. So I know the game I want is on page 40, and we're there, and it's nifty lifty. So just press return and the game goes straight in. So this one's from Vision Software. Excuse the aerial cable sort of sticking up there. We will have sound, just because you're going to be amazed if you've never heard it, how loud the BBC's internal speaker is there is a way to regulate it, but it involves taking the top off and turning a screw, and that I'm far too lazy for that. So anyway, oh, listen how loud that is. Right, okay, the keys for this are Z and X, left and right. This tune is going to get on your nerves very quickly, but the game itself is fantastic. I love this game. Oh, right, that is ear bleeding. I'm going to turn that off. Right, so that's it. Yeah, there's about 200 games on the disc, I think. So let's have a look through and give you a quick flick through, see what's on there. So we'll enter the command again. I could have just pressed escape, couldn't I, to have come out of that game, rather than flick the switch. Right, so yeah, we've got this selection of games available, some classics in there, some not so. I haven't gone through probably even a quarter of the games that are on here, because I found like ones I like Chucky Egg, Way of the Exploding Fist on the BBC Micro is really good, surprisingly so, etc. So you can see there's 65 pages of this, including some games. Let's have a look. Let's go back and show you what Alienate is like on the Beeb. Oh, I love the way it sort of bleeds in like that. There we go. So again, instantaneous. Space to play. Oh, I can never remember the bloody keys for this. It's not bad. It's got some slowdown issues on it, like the BBC Micro version of Night Law's got, which I've shown in a video before. But yeah, so let's go back to the... It's break, isn't it? It brings you back to that menu. Now, sometimes this doesn't load properly once you've sort of escaped. You have to actually turn the machine off. But no, it's playing ball today. So yeah, we've got all these various games. Let's go down and look at... I can't play Elite, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to show you it, because that seems to be a favourite on the BBC Micro. Right, so there we go. That's the BBC's Turbo MMC device. Let's move on to the final storage medium, which is going to be... Well, it's not a storage medium. It's going to be what I use to play the Spectrum games. See you in a sec. Okay, and finally now we're on the ZX Spectrum. Now, again, there are loads of different devices, SD card readers, and the divide devices, etc. But I use the trusty MP3 sort of loading from an MP3 cassette from an Android app that I use called... Oh, it's just bloody turned itself off the screen. Oh, no, it ain't. Called Play ZX, which is from the Android store. And I don't know if it's on iPhones. And it just sort of connects it. To make sure you got a phone with a headphone jack for this. You can buy the cassette converters for a few quid from Amazon. And this is what I like to use because I do like the Spectrum's loading, even though the Screech isn't to everyone's liking. But yeah, the app is sort of already fully loaded with a load of games. It's free. And all you do is you simply click into the menu and find the game you want. So here we're just going to go for Manic Miner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Spectrum in 48K mode. Load, dash, dash. Press play on the old doobie. I know you don't have to apparently, but I do anyway, just out of force of habit. And then I'm going to play on the tape. Always a bit of interference, and I'm not sure where it comes from when you're in between sort of like loading cycles or whatever as you call it. I don't know if you can hear it, that kind of scratchy crackling. But look at that, there's the Manic Miner sort of loading screen. That's still really impressive 36 years later. As you can see, by Matthew Smith. It was nice to see photos recently of the Play Expo in Manchester, where Matthew put in an appearance. Really nice to sort of see him, because obviously everyone knows there was a period in time where his whereabouts were completely unknown, but it's good to see him sort of back, and the sort of legacies he's created. The Manic Miner games and Jet Set Willies are not my favourite games ever, but many people consider them a classic. In this game, I think the furthest I've got is screen 5 or something like that, but then you know what I'm like. So we're just going to talk amongst ourselves a bit whilst we sort of go through it. Now, that particular app has got lots of games on it. I've never had a problem finding sort of what I wanted to play, and I've also, importantly, never had many issues with the games not loading. Now, there are some compatibility issues with the different models of Spectrum. Apparently, the best for compatibility Spectrum to have is the 128K plus 2, the grey one, the very first plus 2, which I do still have my one from Christmas 1986, but it doesn't work. These plus 2A sort of stroke 2B black machines, apparently they've got some, like I said, some compatibility issues. I can't even say it. And games like Bomb Jack struggle to load on it. But this is Manic Miner, so we're just going to see how this goes. Now, like I've said about all these devices, they are a godsend, and I went through a phase of hoovering up Spectrum tapes and never really sort of considered how much a problem space was until I had a good 200 to 300 cassettes, and then sort of decided I was going to get more machines, because as you may or may not know, for the first few years this was purely a sort of Spectrum channel. But I had to, oh, something's banging and crashing upstairs. I had to make a decision, you know, that I wasn't going to be able to add, you know, cratefuls of Commodore 64, Amstrad, BBC Micro games, not just the games but the data sets, the disk drives, if that's what I sort of wanted to use. It wouldn't have been, there just isn't physically the space, because Baz is stuck on that desk and there is no sort of room anywhere. Now we're still in a sort of state of bedlam here in relation to sort of home improvements, decorations and that, and the 4 boxes full that I've had that I've got are up in the loft now, and they're likely going to have to stay there. So there we are. That is Manic Miner loaded from a MP3. Now, yeah, I'm not showing you anything new there, I'm sure, but anyway, let's go to the outro. Hello, welcome back. Right, I hope you found that of some use. Now, I know to the majority of you will know all about all these devices and others. Anyway, but it was just, I thought it would be nice for people that perhaps are new to the sort of hobby of retro collecting, or looking to get started into it and are having exactly the same worries about where am I going to put everything. The devices in and amongst themselves, they're all a complete godsend. I don't mind the sacrifice of, you know, not being able to play from tape or real tape or sort of like real disc, as long as I can sort of get the experience of playing the games on the machine, which is what it's all about. Now, as I said, you know, these are the solutions that I use. There are other ones available, and the fact that I'm using these doesn't mean that I think the other ones that are out there on the market are any less relevant or worthy. It's just I can only speak of what I know, really. There will be links in the description box below to where you can purchase the SD to IEC and the Epix fastcart for the Commodore 64, for the USB to DDI 3, for the Amstrad, and for the Turbo MNC devices for the BBC Micro. The 2 Android apps, hopefully I've shown you where you can get them and how to sort of use them. PlayZX for the Spectrum, MSX2 CAS for the MSX, believe it or not. And those little cassette converters that I use on the Spectrum, they cost a few quid. And sort of like boxed, they look like, where's my boxed ones on? There's always good to have a spare in case you knacker one up. Sort of that kind of thing. It's I don't know how sort of close you can see that. It's all you need, really, and the app. Yeah, I just thought I'd go over again, showing them in actual use, because I don't think when I did that previous video that I sort of showed exactly what the sort of benefits of it were. For the USB to DDI 3 will of course link to novabugs, far more in-depth review of the system, where he goes on you know, a lot more than I sort of know or understand about it, which you may find useful if you decide that you want to sort of look at that machine. Anyway, also to the Retro Computer Shack I'll link, because all the leads and stuff I'm using, RGB to SCART leads for all these machines, all came from there. And the MSX leads that I showed you using the MSX to CAS app on, I only ordered Thursday evening and they arrived yesterday afternoon. And you'll find that with all stuff that I've ordered from there, it's always arrived really promptly, and I've never had a problem with it. So if you need any of this stuff, if you are looking at buying machines but you're worried about, you know, I haven't got a TV I can play it on, there are solutions available for that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. You haven't found it sort of pointless or anything. Sorry about the cat on the MSX segment. He always does that. He's a pain in the arse walking across my desk. I can't see yet because I haven't watched the thing whether or not he actually trod on the MSX, but it worked fine afterwards. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. If you like the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. If you do subscribe, please take the time to join in with the discussion via the comments section, particularly if you agree with anything I've said about these devices, or if you know of any other solutions, etc. that you use. You might want to sort of direct people that way as well. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care. Goodbye.